Okay, welcome back. I thought I would take a few minutes today and talk about one of the 5 C's that we discussed in a previous video. One of the C's being cutting. So I will go over what I have in my kit when I go out. Now, we did talk about some of these tools before, but I'm just going to go into a little bit more detail with them as to their use and their function and the make and model, etc. So the first item is, which all bushcrafters, or people that go outside, if you have nothing else in your kit, it's going to be the knife. Now, I say if there's nothing else in your kit, this is sort of the foundation for everything else you put in your kit. I don't know a bushcrafter out there that started off their kit with a canteen and then 3 weeks later decided they needed a knife. It's usually the other way around. So this particular knife is a Mora knife. It's made in Sweden, has a stainless steel blade. It has a Scandi grind, which is a straight grind. Very easy to sharpen. Makes great feather sticks. You're going to use this type of tool in cutting cordage, day-to-day cutting, carving, making feather sticks, making kindling, processing firewood. You could even cut down some small trees with it if done properly. Again, this particular knife comes with a ferrocerium rod in it because it is the Light My Fire model, and it takes care of the other part of the other C equation, which is combustion. In fact, it is a multi-tool. And because we're going to talk about tools today, I am going to just remind you, when you think about whether it's cutting, combustion, cover, canteen, what have you, you're going to think in your head all the time that if I have just that one item that covers that C, I essentially have none. So I better have 2. And the reason being is, if I only have one knife and this blade breaks and it becomes useless, or the handle breaks, or what have you, I essentially have no tools. And if I leave the yard thinking that, and then I sort of get into the habit of redundancy where maybe I get another knife or another cutting tool, then if I go out into the bush and I happen to break one of my tools, then I'll always have a backup. Or as they say, 2 is 1 and 1 is none. So if you have 2 tools and you break one, you still have one. But if you only have one and you break it, you got none. Okay, so do think about that. Now, does that mean you have to run out and buy everything redundant right off the bat? No, because you're only going to go out in the backyard or the park or in the neighbor's woods or what have you to practice. But in a survival situation, that's the way you have to start thinking. Okay, great knife, can't say enough about it. Well, I will say this though, in terms of batoning or using it to split firewood, it does not have a full tang feature. In other words, the spine of the knife does not extend all the way to the back of the butt of the knife. That's sort of important in terms of longevity and structural integrity, and you should look for that in a knife. This does not have that, but I will say this, not saying for you to go out and do this, but I have batoned with this knife, and I whacked it. I mean, it's got some nicks on the top of it, pretty good nicks on the top of it. But I have whacked it, twisted it, bent, the blade has been bent a little bit, and it just comes back for more time after time. So you're going to hear a lot of people say, well, that's not, it's not a full tang knife, you shouldn't be using it like that. Well, I have, and it works. So will it fail at some point? Possibly. But at any rate, I'm just saying it's a pretty rugged knife. That's the bottom line. All right, the second tool that we have in the cutting process is a folding saw of some sort. Now, you could bring a bow saw, you could bring a straight edge pruning saw with a sheath on it, but I like this because it's compact, lightweight, rugged. I've had it for about 3 or 4 years. It's worked very well. It's made by the Bahco company. The TPI, or tooth per inch, specification on it is for a dry cut, not a wet cut. I prefer that because primarily this saw is going to be utilized in processing firewood. Well, hopefully most of my firewood's dry. So having said that, that's why I picked the teeth per inch. Don't ask me what the number is, but if you go to their site, and I'll leave the link below, they'll describe to you and explain to you which TPI is right for green wood, dry wood, etc. Okay. The only tip I will give you on this is there's a screw here that you can adjust the blade in terms of how easily it swings back and forth. I did have to adjust that a little bit once when I first got it. As you can see, there's a screw on one side and there's a locking nut on the other. It's basically one of those plastic sleeves knots, friction type nut. And all I did was just loosen it maybe a 1/16 of an inch and it's fine. But that's just tweaking from me. The blade in itself, I've coated on a number of occasions with WD-40 and a lubricant called Croil, and it improves the performance of the saw quite a bit, and it cuts down on the pitch residue as well. And if you have pitch residue on the blade and you use that some WD-40 and an old rag or paper towel or whatever, it'll take the pitch right off of it. So that's something to think about. You don't necessarily have to oil up the pivot point, and I don't really recommend it because it might, I don't know if it'll deteriorate the plastic sleeve that's in here or make things a little too, I mean, if it's too stiff, try adjusting the screw first. It does have a lanyard on it. It does have a locking mechanism, so it'll lock closed as well as locking open. Okay, we're going to talk a little bit about another saw that's out there called the Silky saw. Now, from what I understand, it seems to be the up-and-coming saw. This seems to be the mainstay in a lot of bushcrafters' packs right now. But from what I hear about the Silky saw, it could give the Bahco saw a run for its money, and I am going to purchase one probably in the next few weeks, and we'll be doing a follow-up comparison video and a showdown between these two saws. Now granted, I've had this one for 4 years, but I should be able to do some interpolation as to how well the other one handles compared to this one. So stay tuned for that. Alright, so these are the two items that I'll go out with every single day with. Whether it's an hour or a day or a week, these two go with me all the time. Okay. Before I get into the axe, I'm just going to go real quickly to a tool that I keep on my person, or in my kit, I should say. This is a Leatherman Skeletool. This happens to be the CX version, and it is a multi-tool. Now, I'm not huge on carrying multi-tools as a rule, but in this particular case, because it has a knife, okay, it does cover one of the C's. And I just happened to purchase it a few years ago before I was heavily into bushcraft. So now I carry it with me as a matter of habit. It was in my pocket today. I didn't even know it was in my pocket until I reached in there and felt it. It's one of those things I pick up and put in my pocket every single day as a matter of habit. It has a pair of pliers, some wire cutters, a knife like I said. It's got a, not only does it have two Phillips bits, but it also has storage for two standard bits for the screwdriver. It has a bottle opener and lanyard, obviously with a clip. The cool thing with a clip is you can clip, you know, if you're making one of those freeze-dried meals, you know, and you're putting the boiling water in it and you go to seal up the pack, and those ridiculous, and I'm talking ridiculous, you know, closures, the zipper mechanisms, they don't work, and you want to fold it over. It's a really neat clip, works well with keeping that or closed until your food's done, so it doesn't open up and get cold or whatever. So lots and lots of uses, not a lot of weight. The downside of it is this seems to be going for right now on Amazon for $90. I know that I didn't pay $90 for this when I purchased it, so I don't know if the steel industry is, you know, things are rough there, so, you know, these items are more expensive or they stopped making them, and I don't know what the problem is, but I can't believe I paid over $50 for this. If you do look up the steel on it, the steel has a number on it, 154 CM. That's 154 Charlie Mike. Now these, I do know that the steel is very, very, very tough, steel, and it's one of the better steels on any of their knives. So maybe that has some influence. I'm not sure. It also has a little bit of carbon fiber, you know, in the structural makeup. More aesthetic, I think, than really structural. But there again, it's up to you. Now you don't have to have a multi-tool. You can certainly get a pen knife, you know, with 2 blades in it or 1 blade in it to keep in your pocket. It might be a good idea. But if you, again, it's all a matter of how much weight, you know, after this stuff starts building up over time. We're up to 30 and 40 pounds in our pack, and we're just going for a walk in the woods for 5 hours. Sometimes it doesn't make any sense. So you have to just weigh it out literally and figuratively. All right, the last item that I'm going to talk about is the axe. This is a Swedish woodsman's axe from Wetterlings from Sweden. It has a hand-forged head on it that came absolutely razor sharp from the factory, and an American hickory handle, which is, the workmanship on it is just unbelievable in terms of the fit and finish on it. I do have one issue with it, and that is, even though it came razor sharp, I'm doing a little bit of research about the quality of the steel, because it didn't take long for it to nick the blade. Now, perhaps that's indicative of this type of steel, I don't know. And I had to resharpen it a couple of times with a file. It was polished to a mirror finish, so they obviously used, you know, 3000 grit stone and then stropping, maybe even a higher grit stone than that, and stropping, because it had an absolute mirror finish. But I love the balance on it. It processes firewood, and it's something I use if I'm going to process firewood, you know, in this neighborhood and larger, where this is no longer efficient to do so, even if it's dry. So if I go out and I'm going to practice making larger, more long-term shelters where I would have this in my pack, then this comes in my pack. So anyway, those are the items that I have for cutting tools right now. As I think I said before, I'm not asking you to go out and purchase these items, but I have done the research on them. And other than the knife, this was a first shot deal. I've tried other saws. I like this. I have had other hatchets and axes and did research and really like this. So if, at the very least, these 2 items I know for sure are, through trial and error, are very good at what they do for what I need them to do. So I think that rounds it off for the cutting portion of the 5C pack. If you have any comments or questions, please leave them in the comment section. If you've enjoyed this video, I really appreciate it if you'd hit the like button and subscribe so you can see the future videos. I felt we should do this video sort of in conjunction with the fire series, since you're going to be processing firewood. You know, these are the 3 tools to do it with, or 4 if the case may be. And we'll see you next time in the next video. So in the meantime, don't forget to be careful, take care, and we'll see you real soon. Bye-bye now.